I'm Ashley Victoria Robinson.
And I'm Jason Inman.
And that is Greywind, who still doesn't have a damn thing to say about Jon Snow coming back to life.
Really?
I mean, he doesn't tweet. And we are here to give you a review and recap of Game of Thrones Season 6, Episode 3, Oathbreaker.
Oh, I'm glad I didn't break my oath to come do this episode. Maybe next week.
Ooh, foreshadowing.
All right, before we break down the episode for you, we want to warn you there are some major spoilers that are going to happen in this review. So if you haven't watched the episode, you better hop on your direwolf and go do that.
And then come back.
Yes. So at the beginning of this episode, we start out with Davos seeing Jon Snow right where the last episode left off. And I liked the beat where Jon Snow reacted to the massive stab wounds that were in his chest. What do you think of that scene?
I actually thought it was some of Kit Harington's best acting to date. I thought that physically...
The heavy breathing?
I do. I think that physically he did a really good job embodying the shock of what it must have been like, but also the fear and the confusion. And we don't get a lot of emotion out of this version of Jon Snow, and it was just nice to see him do that.
I loved the Davos speech where he was like, you coming back to life, that's freaking mad, but like, you know, go fail again. Like, because Jon Snow's all about, like, he feels that he failed. Yeah. And we also got a little bit of a touch of Melisandre thought that he could be the promised prince.
That she originally thought that Stannis was. Yeah, it was cool.
Right after that, Jon Snow reveals himself to all the wildlings and the members of the Night's Watch. He gets to have a funny joke by Tormund, who Tormund was like, they all think you're a god, and I saw your, let's say, little Jon Snow. And he knows that he's not, which I thought was a really nice, I like their relationship, these two, the wildling dude who hated Jon Snow. Yeah. You know, and then Ed... his trustful friend Ed was just like, is it still...
Kind of looks like Bronn.
Yeah, he does. He looks like the son of Bronn, doesn't he? But he was very concerned that it was still Jon Snow inside that body. He kept asking him that. Is it still you?
He's like, your eyes are still brown, which is something that's an important detail about the zombie walker dudes. The White Walkers is that they do not have the same human-colored eyes.
Now, were you... Oh, nice touch. I didn't catch that.
Thank you.
Now, these two scenes, we get more scenes with Jon Snow later. Jon Snow's back.
He is.
How do you feel these beginning scenes of his revelation were handled?
I think they were handled very well. I like that we did them on a small scale. You didn't see everyone like, oh, I'm freaking out.
Bow to the snow, you know what I mean?
Yeah, but their concerns were legitimate, and I thought it was actually handled in a very subtle way that I didn't expect it to be. I thought they were two great scenes, and like you said, I thought the beat that now he can joke with the leader of the wildlings, like that's a pretty amazing step from where we were 2 seasons ago.
Yeah, all they wanted to do was climb up walls of ice.
Yeah.
And he's like, hang on, you bastard.
Whole thing.
Now we cut to a scene of the sea. Gilly and Sam are at sea. They're going to Old Town, or more specifically with the revelation that only Sam is going to Old Town because the Citadel doesn't allow women. They're not progressive.
There are many places in Westeros that suspiciously don't allow women, yet women seem to keep showing up there.
But I was surprised by the revelation that Sam, I remember back in season 1, he talked about how much he hated Hornhill, his home.
Yes.
And he's going to drop Gilly off and young Sam at his home of Hornhill, which I have a feeling that she's not going to get a good reception.
I have a feeling she is going to wind up joining him in the Citadel there.
Sneaking in?
I do think so. Just like she snuck into Castle Black. But I think that it's interesting that Sam trusts his mother enough to take care of the son that he considers his own. I think that could be a really strong and interesting relationship between the two women.
How long do you think until Sam finds out about Jon's death and then sudden resurrection?
I don't know, because news travels really slowly in Westeros.
Think they'll go the whole season?
I think so, because I don't even think he knows that Jon is dead yet.
No, I don't think he does. I think he has no idea.
But I think that the next time he hears about the Night Watch, he'll hear about Jon coming back to life, and then he'll come back to the north.
Yeah, it's weird because you think about Winterfell, too. Ramsay and them have scenes, and we'll get to that, that they still think, they haven't heard that Jon Snow is dead.
Exactly.
Like, they're talking about, like, oh, Jon Snow's still up there, and he's the Lord Commander. This was my least favorite scene in the episode because of Sam's excessive vomiting.
Yeah, we get it. Didn't need it. Pass.
All right, now let's talk about something that we don't want to pass on. Bran and the Three-Eyed Crow watching young Ned Stark at the Tower of Joy.
Yeah.
I thought they did an excellent job casting young Ned. We get to see Sir Arthur Dwayne, and we get to see the Kingsguard. We get to see this very great choreographed fight.
It's so well executed, so amazingly done. It was really great.
And we finally get a little bit of the revelation of the whole reason behind the rebellion of Eddard being like, where's my sister? This is going to end. I liked young Eddard Stark. I thought that they did a good job finding a kid who looks like Sean Bean.
And could act.
And has some nice charisma.
Yeah.
What did you think about finally getting behind the scenes of this moment of Game of Thrones history?
I think we called this in a previous episode that this was what Bran was going to be doing for the season, and I think that it's pretty obviously leading towards the revelation about Jon Stark's parentage, and that's I think would be a really great beat for him to explore. I love the flashback scenes. I didn't like them the first time we saw them last couple seasons ago when we saw little Cersei,
young Cersei.
But I think they're using them in a really interesting way, and it parallels a lot more of what's going on. So I think it's really intelligent storytelling.
I loved it because I liked the revelation that Bran had always heard about this story that his dad had beat this guy easy,
who was an amazing swordsman.
Yes, and they watch it and there's no way he can beat him, and they see that he got stabbed in the back. So to me, it's like Bran is to me it's the slow revelation that Bran doesn't know everything, and that no matter how honorable somebody is, they still lie to you.
But you have to think that Bran is 8 years old when Ned dies, so it's interesting to see him kind of go behind the curtain and kind of learn that adults aren't always infallible.
I especially love the beat too, where Bran yelled to his young dad and his dad stopped
and turned around.
Yeah, like he heard something.
Yeah.
And I assume a big mystery of this season is going to be who's in the tower.
Yes.
I mean, who's in the tower?
We know Lyanna is in the tower, and baby Jon Snow is in the tower.
Who is baby Jon Snow confirmed in that tower? But all signs point to yes.
Yes. We know Lyanna's in the tower.
Okay.
We know Lyanna's in the tower. Possibly with Jon Snow. Possibly with Rhaegar. Those questions remain to be answered.
And then of course we had to walk away from that really interesting scene and walk with Daenerys, with Khal Moro, to Vaes Dothrak.
Yeah.
The old folks' home of the Dothraki.
Yeah.
And just kind of get a lot of scenes where this old woman strips off Daenerys' clothing, puts it back on, and then is like, "I saw you eat a horse's heart back in season 1. Listen, lady, I did too.
Yeah.
And you're forbidden to go out in that world. Blah blah
and
blah.
they might murderize you.
You'll be lucky if they let you sit in this old wooden chair and whittle.
Yeah, we know. Look, we know that we're gonna have the same beat here that we had in Marine, that we've had with the Dothraki before, that we've had with basically every story that Daenerys has told, which makes it a not exciting story beat that was interrupting a pretty great episode up to this point.
No, like that. To cut away from the young Eddard stuff to go to that scene where it was just like, oh, she's in trouble again,
and
she's
topless
captured
again.
Okay, we saw that in season 1.
But there are no dragons.
Yay! And then we learn the secret of Varys.
Yes.
Varys, excuse me, in Marine, and that he likes to make people happy. He gets answers by making people happy. And he basically learns all the secrets of the Sons of the Harpies.
Yes.
Because he basically gives this woman a free ticket out of Marine for her son.
He gives her what she wants.
Her and her son, Dom. I thought that was really great. And they counter that with the scene I'm going to call the Council of Tyrion, where Tyrion is talking about playing games and conversations with Grey Worm. I love Grey Worm. It's like, what would you talk about if we're not here? Patrol. What I see on patrol.
Who we captured on patrol. Who we killed on patrol.
And then it's interesting to learn that Tyrion basically invented Never Have I Ever.
Yeah. And he's going to lose first.
And basically we learned that the other cities that Daenerys has conquered are basically coming back, the masters of the old cities, and they have to send them a message. They have to speak in their language.
Yeah.
What did you think about the revelations of Marine? A lot didn't happen in Marine, but
Marine was definitely a lot less exciting than it was previously, but I think that they're going to use this in a really interesting way to expand the Council of Tyrion's reach and their grow, and then maybe by the time Daenerys comes back to them, they won't need her anymore. I like this scene as setup, but it wasn't the most entertaining thing I've ever seen.
Well, that's what you could say about a lot of this episode, is that a lot of it is set up. And it kind of makes me wonder that if that's going to be the progression of the season so far, because episode 1 was set up, episode 2 was a lot of stuff happened.
Yeah.
This episode was set up. So it makes me wonder, is next episode going to be the one like, oh, a lot of stuff's going to happen? Because we go to, I think, 2 more scenes of setup in King's Landing. One, we get to see the new Varys in King's Landing, and all his little birds, and we get to learn a little bit about Sir Gregor. And the stuff that they did to him to make him back to the Kingsguard. And we learn a lot about Pycelle and Kevon and the Queen of Thorns talking in the small council about the abomination that he is. And I liked the scene where Jaime was like, listen, I'm the head of the Kingsguard, and I deserve to sit at this table.
Yeah, and then they asked the Maester, and he's like, well, there is some, but then they all refuse to stay and listen to the Lannisters in the end. Yeah,
they won't stay. So it seems like we might get a Lannister revolution in King's Landing.
A little uprise going on.
Yeah,
Even though there's a Lannister king, but a Baratheon king.
Yes, and then I want to talk about the most on-the-nose scene that we had in this entire episode. Jonathan Pryce and King Tommen talking about how a mother's love does not come from this world, which I thought was very fitting since this episode aired on Mother's Day.
Yay, we love mothers.
Yeah, we're just going. And then we move back to Braavos, Arya, and her daredevil training.
Yes.
She keeps getting hit with the stick by a small girl as they ask her questions, and every time she lies, she gets hit.
Yep.
Until eventually she turns on her radar sense, and she's awesome. So Arya gets her sight back.
She does.
And Arya has completely abandoned the identity of Arya Stark.
Yes, because Jaqen tells her a girl has nothing to fear giving her sight back if she is no one. And then she got her sight back. Everything was A-okay. So I think this is a huge step in the person that Arya is going to become by the end of the series.
What do you think this has to... What do you think this is foreshadowing? Where do you think they're going with Arya?
I'm going to say that I think this was an interesting parallel because we did talk about Jon's eyes in a previous scene, and now Arya is getting her eyes back, and they're both born again into a new version of themselves. So I think that that was an interesting parallel between two characters that were very, very close at the beginning of this season. I think this is heralding Arya maybe building a little bit of either a reputation or an empire for herself in Braavos, kind of as this leader of a group of assassins.
Then we head on to Winterfell.
Yes.
And Ramsay Snow talking to Lord Umber and Karstark.
No, he's Ramsay Bolton now.
Oh, excuse me. Sorry.
He's the king now.
Apologies, Ramsay. Now, Umber, he doesn't like the wildlings, and he's there to be like, yo, man, I need some horses to go against this Jon Snow.
Yo, he don't like anyone.
Something that I kind of talked about our last little episode there.
True.
And then Umber has a gift because he won't kneel. He's like, look, I won't kneel. And the gift is Rickon Stark, the missing Stark brother.
Is about twice the size that he was the last time we saw him.
And to prove that that is actually Rickon Stark, he brings in the cut off head of Shaggy Dog.
Shaggy Dog.
Shaggy Dog is dead.
Listen, don't look.
Don't. Yeah, cover his ears.
It's okay.
All the direwolves are dying in the show. What do we think about this? Rickon is back in the show. What do you think this is gonna mean?
I think that this is gonna be a big.
Don't listen.
I think this is going to be a big game changer because up to this point, and I think we had mentioned this, none of us knew, well, we knew where Rickon was, but we didn't really know what was going on with him. I think you're going to have to see him step up into the role that Bran had been filling in the previous episodes now that they've killed off enough of the other siblings. I hope that we get something really useful and interesting out of him because up to this point, he's basically just been Baby Stark and there's not a ton that you can do with that.
Yes, he's just been Baby Stark.
And he's definitely gonna, Ramsay's gonna, bad things.
I actually think that this might lead to Jon Snow coming to Winterfell for Rickon.
If he hears that Rickon is there?
Yes. I actually think this might actually turn into a different thing. Well, I'll talk about more in predictions that, like, we might have a different head of Winterfell than we think at the end of the series.
Oh, with little baby Rickon Stark.
So then we go for the final scene, back to the wall. Jon Snow's gonna hang all them sons of bitches that hanged him, or stabbed him, I mean. Even Thorne and the little kid.
Little baby Ollie.
And Thorne says something very interesting. He's like, I'm going to die, I get to rest, but you're going to be fighting their battles forever. Which I thought was very interesting and maybe alluding to some supernaturally thing that we don't know about.
Also, although it is a slightly different religious sect in Pike in the Iron Isles, they say what was drowned can never die, can never be killed. So Jon's already died once. Does that mean that now he's, for all intents and purposes, immortal?
Yep, and then he hangs them in, he takes off his Lord Commander cloak, and he gives it to Ed, and basically says, my watch has ended, giving us the assumption that Ed is now Lord Commander. Of course, they probably have to vote him in office. You might see that next episode. But giving the strong impression that Jon Snow is done with the Night's Watch.
Yes, and that probably wherever he's going next, which of course the logical assumption is Winterfell, that he's going to take Davos and at least some of the wildlings with him.
I think the wildlings are now Jon Snow's army. Yeah, I think he's totally his army.
Personal Kingsguard.
Yes. So let's talk about the rating for this episode. We were going to rate this episode and what we thought about it. Out of 1 to 5 direwolf heads, how would you... oh, that's sad news.
That is sad, considering what happened in this episode.
Out of 1 to 5 very alive direwolf heads.
Yes.
What would you give this episode, Ashley?
I would give this episode 3 direwolf heads, living and healthy and strong, because I think that what we saw was interesting, but I don't think it did a ton to progress this show forward.
I agree. I would give it 3 as well. There were lots of interesting character turns. There were a lot of interesting character beats. I love seeing young Eddard. I love Jon Snow's reaction to his stab wounds. But it totally was a setup episode. But I thought this was a better setup episode than the first episode of this season.
Definitely.
There was enough there. Of course, what seems to be the case with all Game of Thrones, the stuff across the sea just doesn't seem to matter as much as the stuff in Westeros.
Aside from the stuff in Bravos, for me, it's really not that compelling.
Yeah, it's not compelling at all, except for the Arya stuff.
Yeah, sorry.
So there you go. All right, now we're going to talk about some crazy predictions for what we think is going to happen in the next episode or in the future. Ashley, what do you think is going to happen in the future based on tonight's episode?
Based on tonight's episode, I think that, and I'm going to change a previous prediction that we had, but it was mostly yours, so I don't feel that bad about it. I think that Rickon Stark is going to be declared King of the North, and I think you are going to see a showdown between his forces and his army and King Tommen's forces and his army. So you're going to see little boys playing at the game of war.
Interesting.
My boy kings. That's what I think is going to happen. How about you?
Well, it's funny because I actually was going to say that. I thought my prediction was that Rickon was going to be the head of Winterfell. But, I'm going to go crazy. I mentioned this on Twitter a couple of times. I think Arya is going to kill Jaime Lannister. That is my prediction for the end of the series.
I could get behind that as a choice.
I think Arya is going to become a major assassin. I think that Jaime is eventually going to do something very noble and very good. And I think the moment that he does, Arya stabs him in the back.
Because he's gonna go across the sea to get Tyrion.
Or something.
Yeah.
I think they're gonna turn Jaime into a good guy. And I think what we saw tonight is Arya is gone. And I think Arya is going to become this device and weapon of this mass murder until, I'm going to throw it out even further, I think that Arya could possibly kill one of her family members. And that will knock her out.
Well, because they haven't seen each other in 5 years?
That will knock her out. Well, she is no one right now.
Yeah.
So no one has no family. No one has anything.
Yep.
I think in a fit of rage, because I think she's going to become like a Hulk rage assassin monster.
Yeah.
I think Arya is going to start dropping main characters.
Ooh, interesting.
And again, I don't know which one she's gonna kill, but I'm putting money that she kills one of her own brothers and sisters.
Oof, woof.
So there
Not
you
John.
go. Yeah. So those are our crazy predictions for Game of Thrones. Guys, let us know down in the comments who you think is right. Do you think Ashley is right? Do you think I'm right? Whatever you want to do, but please be kind because the direwolves read the comments.
Yes, and just to let you know, this episode has been brought to you by Majorspoilers.com, the comic book website where they love comics and they know that you do too.
Yes, that's it. And don't forget to go check us out on patreon.com/Jawin right there where you can support all the videos that we do on the channel, plus our awesome podcast, Geek History Lesson. I'm Jason Inman.
I am Ashley Victoria Robinson.
And this is a direwolf who still refused to talk, but he's kind of scared now because we're chopping off direwolves' heads. Guys, don't forget that winter is coming, and the dragons will probably burn all your babies, but the direwolves will always be with us. See you next week, or maybe we won't. Who knows? Maybe someone will lose a head.